you're big, you can push all the little ones around. They're looking up while you are looking down. You can snap a tree in two like it was just a twig. Things are better when you're big. When you're big, you can do anything you wanna do. All the rules that grown-ups make, they don't apply to you. You can splash in all the puddles, gulp and slurp and swig. The world is wetter when you're big. You can snort, you can growl, you can stomp, you can howl, you can bonk someone smaller on the head. You can take what you want, play all day in the snow, and you never ever have to go to bed. When you're big, you can step on little people's toes, munch on their lunch, bop them in the nose. Three horns and long necks and duck feet too. They don't have to do anything you want them to. And if they don't, you can plop them in the goo. Don't you forget, what you want you get. Things are better when you're big. When you're big. When you're big. When you're big.
Leave the door open and get your ID right now.
Confrontation at the door with police is caught on tape. And get this, this is all over a warrant for uncut grass.
You know, I don't even see a name tag on you.
I don't give a shit what you see. Go get your ID. You see that? It says police.
The camera keeps rolling as Robin Ruckman heads back inside and police from Turtle Creek, East Pittsburgh and the Housing Authority follow her. She did finally search for her ID, but she is mostly angry that police came inside her home when she asked they stay out.
Can you please wait here?
No, I can't wait.
Now at 5, a full-scale investigation is underway after SWAT officers raided a South Florida home with 3 children inside. Tonight, the father of 2 of those kids is speaking out. Team 6 reporter Sharon Lawson is live in Miami now with details. Sharon?
Well, Jackie, that Atlanta father is vacationing here with some 2 of his young boys and a nephew. Last week, he left the children at a relative's home, and they were there for a couple of hours alone when chaos erupted. Bobby McClendon is outraged and demanding answers. He says his young nephew and son were left bloodied, bruised, and traumatized after the home the children were staying in was raided by SWAT.
And it's kind of strange how they would be so aggressive to children that aren't aggressive.
Last Thursday, the SWAT team from the Miami Police Department stormed this Coconut Grove home. The only people inside, 2 13-year-olds and 1 12-year-old. The first person they came upon, McClendon's 13-year-old nephew in the kitchen.
And they tell him, get down, get down, get down. So as they're telling him to get down, he's looking for a spot, to get down at. And as he's looking for a spot, they hit him on the top of his head with their rifle.
And then there was 12-year-old Aaron McClendon. He was sleeping in the back room when he says he was forced out and then punched in the eye.
Yeah, I was pretty scared.
According to McClendon, officers went to the wrong house because the address on the warrant states 3844 Williams Avenue. They live at 3844 Thomas Avenue.
I can't talk about the details of that right now. We're just not ready to go into all of those details.
But he did elaborate on the pictures of the 13-year-old's bloodied head and the 12-year-old's bruised eye.
They're disturbing. Kids shouldn't be harmed in these instances.
According to Major Moss, with all the chaos, the 13-year-old ran into the police officer's weapon. As for McClendon's son, how that child was hurt remains a mystery.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
The investigation is to look at this and make sure that when the police officers went in to do their jobs, they did it the right way. If they did it the wrong way, the appropriate punishment will be dealt.
And back out live, you just heard Major Moss say an internal affairs investigation is currently underway. In the meantime, Bobby McClendon says that he's going to retain an attorney.
First on Fox tonight, an exclusive story you're only going to see on Fox 54. A church group in town is wrapping up their annual conference, but with a horrifying ending. Last night, congregation members say they witnessed a Richmond County deputy beating one of their own parishioners.
She's in Augusta for a church conference. She says the deputy struck her multiple times with his baton.
It hurts so bad, really bad, and shoved me on the ground and pulled my hair. As he was pulling my hair, I was screaming, "You're pulling my hair, you're pulling my hair," but he wouldn't stop.
Her pastor was confronted by Deputy William Geisen.
Well, he asked me, screamed at me, "What did you say?" And I just, kind of stunned and paused, and I said, I was talking to my pastor and church members, and then he said it again very aggressively, "What did you say?" And I said I was talking to my pastor and church members, and then he just physically grabbed my arm, pulled me about 10 feet, threw me on the back of the police car.
That's when Jean and the other members of the church came outside. Pastor Young, Jean, and her 16-year-old brother Wisely were all arrested. Jean says the deputy who repeatedly hit her was also the one who issued the 3 citations. Jean and her brother are being charged with obstruction of justice. Pastor Young with disorderly conduct.
I'm recording everything that's happening now.
Stop talking because they're talking about.
We're going to come inside, just let you know that. You're going to come inside?
Without a warrant,
You're going to come inside without a warrant? Probable cause, you're going to kick my door down. There is no domestic violence. There is no domestic violence.
Between 2 people, I'm right here.
They're going to arrest you, dude. They're going to fucking shoot us.
Oh, yeah,
How many children are in the house?
There's 1 child in the house and 1 is playing outside. Officer, there's 1 child.
Why are you guys not coming out? Why are you not coming out?
Because we don't live in a police state, sir. Martial law has not been established in this country.
Okay, can you do us a favor? All get down on your ground, get down on the ground, and put your hands behind your back, because we're going to kick the door.
He can't report if his hands are behind his back. We need documentation of this violation of their civil rights.
Stay away from the door, sir.
He's got his hand up.
You're going to kick my door. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down.
Get on the ground.
You kicked my door down.
Yes, we did. Get on the ground.
No, you have no right to be in here. You have no right to be in here. You have no right to be here. You have no right to be in here. Do not touch her. You are assaulting her.
Coming from a family of attorneys, he believes he knows his rights and clearly used them here.
I don't want to answer any questions I don't have to.
The officer became suspicious and asked the 23-year-old to get out of the car. His cell phone was recording from the passenger side. Now watch the second officer search Devermont's wallet without his required permission.
I was shocked.
Police say they were looking for Devermont's license, which he already gave the first officer.
Team ID?
It's unclear that the officer that got into the car knew that a license had been presented.
I mean, ruffling through both sections, I mean, there's no reason to look through my money.
Random telephone calls on her cell phone. Some were threats and some were prank calls, including orders for pizza. Unfamiliar vehicles and police cars sat idling in her cul-de-sac. She was afraid to open her mailbox. A number of certain things were happening to her, so she was really worried about it. And then she realized, hey, you know what? I get the sense that cops are checking in on my driver's license information. You know, they can pull up that information because they're cops.
That's why they know where she lives. Now, look, a lot of times people feel that way, and you're like, you're paranoid, right?
Yeah.
Now, people aren't going to check in on you, and then, mysterious cars in my cul-de-sac. In this case, not so much.
Yeah, so she decided to take a look, and she realized that in a 3-month period, 88 law enforcement officers from 25 different agencies accessed her driver's license information more than 200 times.
Turns out she was totally right. She was right to be paranoid. It seems like half the cops in South Florida were checking out where she lives, and obviously some of them were totally harassing her.
Tonight, a 7 Eyewitness News exclusive. Former Buffalo police officer Cariel Horn in a battle tonight to get her pension. She was fired for trying to stop a fellow officer she says was abusing a suspect. And tonight she is telling her side of the story to 7 Eyewitness News reporter Kendra Eaglin.
November 1st, 2006, there was a call of an officer in trouble at 707 Walden.
That officer, Gregory Kwiatkowski, who was responding to a domestic dispute inside of that home between Neil Mack and his girlfriend. When Officer Cariel Horn went into the house, she says Mack had already been placed under arrest.
He was handcuffed in the front, and he was sideways and being punched in the face by Gregory Kwiatkowski.
Horn and about 10 other officers who arrived at the scene helped drag Mack out of the home, but once outside, Horn says Officer Kwiatkowski was out of control.
Gregory Kwiatkowski turned Neil Mack around and started choking him. So then I'm like, Greg, you're choking him, because I thought whatever happened in the house he was still upset about. So when he didn't stop choking him, then I just grabbed his arm from around Neil Mack's neck.
If that chokehold of a handcuffed suspect caught Horn off guard, it didn't prepare her for what she says Kwiatkowski did next.
He comes up and punches me in the face, and so I had to have my bridge replaced.
Horn says other officers pulled her back when she tried to defend herself. Following that incident, Horn was fired, charged with obstruction for jumping on Officer Kwiatkowski's back and or striking him with her hands. But Officer Kwiatkowski's own words seem to conflict with the charges. In sworn testimony, he says, she never got on top of me. Nonetheless, Horn lost every appeal, her 19-year career over, and she didn't qualify for a pension. The breadwinner for her 5 children, Horn, now a truck driver to make ends meet.
My daughter said, Mommy, why'd you go to work that day? She never said, why did you do what you did, or I wish you wouldn't have done it. She just said, I wish you wouldn't have gone to work that day. So I don't regret it.
Officer Kwiatkowski retired from the police force after he was suspended for choking another officer on the job, a separate incident of punching another officer when he was off the clock, and most recently, Kwiatkowski and 2 other officers were indicted on civil rights charges for holding down a black teenager and shooting him with a BB gun.
Buffalo police officer caught on camera by one of our own 7 Eyewitness News photographers hitting a man with a billy club in the early morning hours of Thanksgiving. Since that morning.
Look at this. A Tennessee police officer is caught on dash cam video allegedly choking a suspect after a traffic stop. Officer William Cosby is seen holding both hands around the suspect's neck until he appears to pass out.
Every breath you take.
Pulled my Glock 40 and just put 10 bullets in your and let you drop. And I wouldn't have lost any sleep. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir, I do.
And he would have been a nice witness as I executed you because you're stupid. And he would have been a nice witness as I executed you.
We got the dollar. They bogus as hell.
I don't think they got that life.
Oh my God, they shot the person!
Store clerk Daniel Fox with the dreadlocks and the officer seated in the store were friendly at first, and something happened. Fox became angry, then walked away and sat down near the register. Officer Clinton Turner followed him and, according to court documents, said, "Don't let us get you locked up on your birthday." Fox said why, that he wasn't harming anybody. Turner said, "Say something else and you'll be locked up." Fox said, quote, "something else." Turner grabbed the clerk and started beating him. Court records say he pulled out clumps of Fox's hair and put him in a chokehold and arrested him for assault.
Tonight, a South Florida family is outraged by this image right here and others. They say North Miami Beach police used it and the images of 5 other minorities as targets during weapons training.
People that are out there supposed to be protecting us are using us as target practice.
The department conducting that training says it has halted the practice for the moment, but the family questions why officers were ever firing at targets with images of real people. Now, in this case, all of them were African American.
Police in North Miami Beach say they have not violated any regulations, but the chief says his officers should have used better judgment. This is where the controversy comes in. 6 minorities down here who are depicted. These are the photographs that were used out here, and this particular picture right here, amazingly, this man right here, his sister, showed up on the weapons range.
And I was like, why is my brother being used for target practice?
It was here on the Medley Range last month when the targets were used in training for North Miami Beach Police Department snipers. Shooting range records show that after the police left, the Florida National Guard came in. That's when the guardsmen saw what police had left behind.
They were all black males.
Among the photos, her brother Woody's mugshot, taken 15 years ago.
There were like gunshots there. And like I cried a couple times.
When she said, oh my God, they use you as target practice. The picture actually has like, bullet holes in, one in my forehead and one in my eye. I was speechless.
A police officer in Texas was jailed this week for knocking a woman's teeth out during an illegal arrest he made in late May. James Angelo Palermo is charged with aggravated assault by a public servant for the May 29th incident in which he allegedly slammed a pedestrian against a car. This is so good. He pulled somebody else over. And then when another woman was walking by the crosswalk, he's like, hey, what are you walking on the crosswalk for? What are you doing? You're obstructing my arrest with this other chick. Grabs her, asks for identification. She's like, what are you talking about? Swings her around, slams her on the ground, breaks 2 of her teeth, and gives her a concussion.
A Sarasota woman remains shaken up after mistakenly becoming the subject of a police raid.
The woman says U.S. Marshals were acting on a tip that led them to the wrong home. And as ABC 7's Bo Beth Yates reports tonight, the raid left her staring down the barrel of a gun. Bo Beth?
That's right, Scott and Lauren. The 59-year-old woman says the marshals came in with guns drawn and ready to shoot.
I was washing dishes. Out of my peripheral vision, I see movement. I look up. There's a Rambo kind of guy with like a vest and a gun pointing at me with a white light. And I just like, and I dropped to the floor and I yelled to my boyfriend, get down, there's somebody with a gun out there.
Goldsberry crawled from the kitchen to her bedroom, got her gun and waited.
I see the door open, so I took aim. It's the only thing I know to do, and I see this bright white light and a barrel of a gun. I don't see a person. And he said, this is the team, please.
The U.S. Marshals were raiding her home. Goldsberry says she felt like she was in a war zone, and even though she heard the word police, she says the behavior caused her to be skeptical.
It was really scary because, he said, if you don't put your gun down, I am going to kill you. Yeah, he did. And he said, effing kill you. Yeah. And so when he said that at first, I wasn't even sure it was the police still, because I'm like, oh, police don't act like that and say that. You just think it's a home invasion. I thought it was some bad guys after me.
Eventually, she put her gun down and was handcuffed. While she waited, the U.S. Marshals explained they were acting on an anonymous tip.
I'm having a hard time processing it, and I want to understand. I want the truth. I want to know why they came here, who called, what made them do that, and is that standard practice?
We had some of the same questions, so we placed several calls to the U.S. Marshal's office, but was unable to get a response. But Goldsberry says something said during the incident may be the basis of the entire ordeal.
His comment was they're federal marshals and they can basically do what they want. I'd hate for this to happen to anyone else. It's just so wrong. That's just, if that's protocol. They're federal marshals and they can basically do what they want.
Action News 5's Nick Kenny has the story.
He's on video counting cash, a bribe, investigators say.
One more. What's that? Count that, make sure.
But Memphis Police Lieutenant Tim Green is only the latest officer to cross federal laws. There are 3 other MPD officers awaiting trial, including Melvin Robinson, accused of trying to buy and sell cocaine while in uniform, in his patrol car, and on duty.
Tonight, Bob Norman has the story of a woman pulled over for a simple traffic stop who ends up getting physically injured in a struggle with a deputy and spending the night in jail. And it was all because she hit the record button on her cell phone. This is one you have to see and hear to believe.
That's the sound of single mom Brandy Burning during a roadside encounter with a Broward Sheriff's deputy who called for backup to help take Burning down.
Had their guns, at least one of them had their gun out. They dragged me out by my arm. You know, I'm just being dragged on the ground and then they throw me onto the cop car.
Her crime? Driving her car in an HOV lane. But that's not what raised the ire of BSO Lieutenant William O'Brien. It was Burning's cell phone after she decided to audio record the traffic stop on I-95 in North Broward. Here's what her phone captured.
Oh, I forgot to tell you I was recording our conversation.
I'm sorry?
I have to tell you, I forgot to tell you I was recording.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, you just committed a felony.
Okay.
Yeah, give me your phone.
No.
Then he gets in my car, in the passenger seat.
Get out of my car.
You are committing a felony. Hand me the phone.
No, I am not.
I know the law better than you, believe me.
I will go to court. I'm not giving you my phone.
You're going to end up in jail if you don't hand me that phone tonight.
I'm not giving you my phone.
Burning was in the driver's seat with her phone when the deputy opened up the door, climbed in, and tried to take away her phone.
Get off of my key right now. Get off of me. You are breaking the law. No, I am not getting out of my car. Get off of me.
All the charges were dropped, but the feelings are still raw. Attorneys Eric Rutenberg and Mike Glasser are representing Burning and have notified BSO in writing of a planned lawsuit.
That there was a battery that occurred, false arrest, false imprisonment.
And it's not the first time for BSO. Former Deputy Paul Pletcher now faces criminal charges after allegedly smashing a woman's phone for videotaping him. While Florida is a two-party consent state when recording others, the courts have upheld the public's right to record cops on the job.
In case you were wondering, after all the talk of her committing a felony, the lieutenant never even charged Burning with making an unlawful recording.
The images are disturbing. The very people in charge of public safety are caught on tape pushing a woman to the ground. Tonight, the victim is speaking out. Sandy has cerebral palsy and walks with a limp. She says she was just heading home when she encountered the officers.
I asked them, excuse me, please. And I told them 3 times I have a disability.
She couldn't believe what happened next.
I reached my hand up because I was trying to get through one of the middle and the third guy, but the tall guy pushed me down.
As Sandy lay on the ground, confused about what happened, she says the officers did nothing to help.
Walked away. They were already down the block.
The Office of the Police Complaints Commission is now investigating. The officer involved has not been suspended. He's still on full duty.
Last night. Man, front door's open. Still want me to bang? 30% of these. I'm at the mall. Don't break that window, boy. Matter of fact, you know. Look! Coming through, fire! Go! Get down! Get down here! With you! Up, hun. Get up. On top of your head. Put your hands on top of your head. Got a female right here. I got it. We need one in the back.
Need one.
I'll take your bike a little bit. Where? Come back. Got one here. Need one in here.
Need one back here, guys.
Hold the stairs. Okay, you got it. I'm going. It's just the.
It's just a residual from the bang. There's no more being generated. It's cleared out a little bit since we started.
The top right there locks it.
You're gonna have to step back over here with me.
I don't know how many people.
Jeff, I thought you were just gonna dive and lay on the floor for us.
Well, I know, right? That fucking ram hit a lot harder than I thought it was going to. It just went beep.
It's just glass.
50-pound ram ain't no match for that 10-pound pan of glass.
All right, guys, it's time for tonight's Tool Time Award. And tonight, we're giving it to a police department that is marred by technological ignorance and a zeal for excessive force. It's the unfortunate characteristics that all led it to terrorize an innocent family. See, last week it was brought to the attention of Evansville police that an anonymous threat had been made online against officers and their families. So the department investigated the comments. They decided that they were going to take action. And boy, did the department take action. Police commanders sent a heavily armed SWAT team to the house where they thought that the threat had been made from. And they were so sure that they were busting up a house full of homegrown terrorists that they invited a local news crew to film their heroism. Take a look at this.
Eyewitness News is there as the Evansville Police Department SWAT team serves a search warrant at a home on Powell Avenue. You hear one flashbang, then another. And then the team moves in.
Now, the thing is that Evansville police officers probably should have thought twice before their dramatic smash and grab. The person that they were looking for, they didn't even live there. So who did they find inside? Well, they found an 18-year-old woman watching the Food Network and her grandmother, who was in another part of the house. Now, it makes the story even worse, as the woman's grandfather later told a local newspaper that the front door was unlocked the whole time. Now, police did knock on the door. They announced that they had a search warrant, but they didn't bother waiting. See, procedures don't actually require the cops to wait for a response after all. And that's kind of why this incident is so troubling. Cops have every right to investigate threats against them. They should be allowed to kick in doors when it's absolutely necessary. But something that we have discussed at length on this show is how local police forces have become increasingly militarized. With the war on terrorism, the war on drugs embraced by both major parties, cops were given a free heavy hand to brutalize with impunity. Now, Riley Balco has been on the show to talk about this subject quite frequently. Now, one disturbing fact that he pointed out is that police conduct roughly 40,000 no-knock raids on an annual basis. And typically, these cops aren't taken to task for their terrorizing tactics, so they show no contrition for harassing law-abiding citizens. Just take a look at how they portrayed the raid to the local news crew, even after they realized that they had gotten it wrong.
No one has been arrested and no charges have been filed yet. But police are continuing their investigation.
We will take steps to address the issue, and if crimes are being committed as far as making the threats, we're going to address that. And if you have the means to carry out those threats and we find those, then additional charges will come with that as well.
Yep, that's right. No arrests, no terrorists, just a teenager watching TV and her granny. Yet, was there an apology from the police? No, of course not. The only mistake that the residents of the house made was a failure to secure their Wi-Fi router, because the threats were made from their unsecured network and its IP address that led the police to the house. But it's not clear if the offender was a visitor, just a passerby using a smartphone. But cops chose to bust up the place like they were in some third-rate action movie. Well, they must have realized that they made a huge mistake, though, because a few days later, they went to investigate the threats at a house a few doors down. But they didn't kick in the door. They didn't throw in flashbangs like they were playing Call of Duty. None of that was necessary to conduct the investigation. Although a grandmother at the second house does claim that she had to run out and stop police from smashing up the place and hurting her grandchildren, which, if true, is sad. And in fact, the whole story is sad. Police can keep communities safe without endangering the safety of law-abiding citizens. They've been doing it for a long time without running roughshod over the Constitution. But for some reason, they find it necessary to use excessive force, strike fear into the hearts of average people. And the Evansville police are guilty of the latest example of this. They failed to realize that the unsecured network could have allowed anybody in the area with an iPhone to send the threats. But hey, rather than being tech savvy, they prefer to take the heavy-handed route. So for that, the Evansville police win tonight's Tool Time Award.
Kathleen Leon, on April 15th, ABC 7 investigative reporter McCarran and her photographer were checking out a tip about questionable use of police and government resources in Prince George's County. They were following a county government car driven by a police officer who appears to be a full-time driver for the county's chief administrative officer. McCarran was driving. Photographer Pete Hakel was in the back seat. Suddenly, they heard the wail of police sirens and saw flashing police lights. Back at ABC 7, managing editor Dan Patrick heard a call on the Prince George's County Police scanner.
Prince George's County Police were stopping a vehicle, they said, was suspicious in nature because there was someone videotaping them.
When we first heard sirens and saw flashing lights, we assumed it wasn't us. And then all of a sudden, we're surrounded.
She's got a gun pulled on me.
Okay, that's right, that's fine.
At gunpoint, McCarran did as she was told.
Face the front, ma'am. Now 1 second, stand by point.
With her hands up, she walked backwards to the sound of the officer's voice. Moments later, a police officer roughly pulled her arms behind her back. Did you tell him at any time he was hurting you?
I didn't say a thing, because as far as I knew, there were still guns trained on me.
But she was injured.
My shoulder felt like it was on fire.
McCarran's shoulder was wrenched from its socket. She may have to have surgery.
Drop the cab right in the Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, our photographer had problems of his own. At least 3 officers had their weapons trained on him.
Keep backing up towards the sound of my voice. Just keep on. I'm a backing.
Eventually, the police determined that this 5'4", 115-pound mother of 3 was not a threat, and they released her without a charge. But before she left, reporter McCarran had a question.
You got pulled over because citizen that you following. Excuse me. We're not taping this. I'm not giving an interview.
I think it's an obvious case of law enforcement intimidation.
The officer shot Jennings, though Jennings' family says he was unarmed. He later died at the hospital.
According to family members, the 18-year-old swallowed 60 pills trying to take his life.
The 2 cops that was involved in the shooting was also there when this took place, when they took him by ambulance to Ransom Memorial Hospital for overdosing.
He had survived the overdose, but only 3 hours after leaving the hospital, he walked to Orshland. When Smith saw what was happening, she ran from her home to try to intervene.
And I told him, that's Joseph Jennings. He's suicidal. He's upset. Don't shoot him.
Her husband also tried to help.
Because my husband was going to tackle him to the ground, was in arm's reach, and they told him to get back or they was going to shoot him.
Smith says her husband backed off.
Me and him could have definitely got the situation under control if they would have just stood down.
And police attention turned back to Jennings.
The cop yelled out, bag him, and then 3 shots were fired with the bags, and then I don't know how many shots were fired. I know they shot him in the back of the leg and in the back of the shoulder.
According to family, he was unarmed at the time of the shooting. Was he armed, and why the need to shoot him? What danger did he pose?
Well, that goes into the specifics of what is being investigated by the KBI. We're not going to comment on any of the details at this point because, as I said, this is an ongoing investigation.
Why did it take them shooting him 16 times?
The officer hits her several times with the handcuffs wrapped around his knuckles. In the video, you can see the flash of metal. Another officer holds her shoulders. She tries to protect herself.
Became nationally known after her videotaped police beating at the CJC became public earlier this year.
All new tonight at 9 o'clock, Dewana Johnson, the transgendered woman whose jailhouse beatdown cost 2 Memphis police officers their jobs, is dead tonight.
And more than a third of the police officers in the small California town of King City have been arrested. This is all for their involvement in a scheme to steal impounded cars belonging to poor families who happen to be Latino immigrants. In fact, one of the police officers was promised he could keep one vehicle for every 10 to 15 vehicles he steered to a particular towing company.
As you mentioned in the introduction, for every 10 to 15 that he would bring to the lot, he would get one in return. Now, the part of the problem is that most of the cars that he was impounding were being sent to just one tow yard. Nearly 90% of all the impounded cars were going to this one tow yard. Problem is that this tow yard also happens to belong to the brother of the acting police chief there in King City.
Can you roll down the window? Can you get it all the way down? Is that as far down as it goes?
What's going on?
I'm gonna ask you one more time to roll down the window, please, ma'am.
What is the citation?
For unsafe equipment.
Why do you need the window all the way down? Are you serious? Oh my God, are you serious? I have to go to the doctor.
Get out. Get out.
Why did you get violent with me?
Ma'am, I didn't get violent at all.
Why did I?
Tonight, the Minneapolis Police Department is again defending itself against accusations an officer went too far during an arrest.
Video given to us late tonight shows a man with his hands on a squad car, tasered in the neck.
An internal affairs investigation is underway after a man claims an officer grabbed his private parts during a videotaped traffic stop, then choked and tased him when he reacted. Channel 2's Tom Jones is live at Powder Springs Police Headquarters, where he got that video today. Tom?
And Javita, police here are not commenting about this incident because of that internal affairs investigation. But the man who was stopped and his attorney are talking, and they say police here used a strategy of grabbing a man's private parts to provoke him. A word of warning, you may find some of the video you're about to see disturbing.
Spread your legs.
As Powder Springs police officer Kay Moore begins to search 23-year-old Bryce Wilson for marijuana, dashcam video appears to show the officer grabbing Wilson's private parts.
Did he actually touch your private parts?
That's what it felt like. It felt like he violated me, and I told him that.
When Wilson reacted by grabbing the officer's hand, Moore and another officer take him to the ground.
Where's it at? Where's it at? I don't have it.
The two officers then raise Wilson's handcuffed arms high behind his back. The officers say Wilson wouldn't be still, so they shock him with a stun gun.
We've got a serious tactic being employed by the police here.
Wilson's attorney says officers grabbing men's private parts is a strategy aimed at getting a reaction out of them.
You get grabbed in the genital area as a young man, it's impossible not to react. You have to react.
Once they react, Jim Howard says the officer says a crime was committed and he can then search them any way he wants. Powder Springs police wouldn't discuss this incident other than to say this.
Once we became aware of the incident, we immediately launched an internal affairs investigation.
Wilson doesn't want this to happen to anyone else.
It felt horrible, it felt painful, it felt embarrassing.
And officers found no marijuana on Wilson. The Delta Airlines employee was charged with resisting arrest. That case was bound over to Cobb County State Court for further prosecution.
Police officers from Boynton Beach, Florida are being investigated after two cell phone videos emerged showing two kids getting harassed by them.
No, he got Kevin's in a chokehold. Yeah, sweet. I heard outside little dog. I saw him.
Boom! So I'm sure that he was mouthing off to the cop, but at that point he was already handcuffed and he wasn't any threat to the police officer.
You do expect that when they're dealing with children that they'll be a little bit gentler, I suppose. I mean, they're 10 and 11-year-old kids. They're not going to like fight back. Like, yeah, they were mouthing off. I did some light research to see how many cops get killed by mouthing off every year, and the number's very low.
I heard outside little dog.
In the face!
Ask them why they stopped you. Don't let them know I'm taping. Don't let them know I'm taping. I ain't got no fucking shit.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going? Oh, not too much.
Good.
Yeah, license, registration, and insurance.
Somewhere in here. Why am I being stopped?
Huh?
Why am I being stopped?
Yeah, I'm not very good, Joe, so I figure I'd stop you today.
I figured that much.
On November 25th, 2006, 23-year-old Sean Bell held his bachelor party with two friends at Kahlua Cabaret, a strip club in Jamaica, Queens. Bell, a former high school baseball star, had planned to marry his girlfriend, Nicole Pult, the following day. But as he left the club, 4 undercover detectives rushed his car with their weapons drawn. The officers, who never identified themselves as members of the NYPD, riddled the car with 50 bullets, killing Bell and badly wounding his two friends. Detective Michael Oliver fired 31 of those bullets, even stopping to reload. All of the bullets that struck Bell were fired by Oliver. Though the detectives claimed Bell's friends left the club with a gun and therefore posed a lethal threat, no weapon was found in Bell's car. After a massive wave of demonstrations across the city, detectives Oliver, Jescardi Snora, and Mark Cooper were indicted for assault, reckless endangerment, and manslaughter. They would be tried not before a jury of their peers, but before a 78-year-old judge scheduled to retire next year. On April 25th, 2008, the officers were acquitted on all charges.
Texas state troopers have been caught doing cavity searches on women that did not need to have cavity searches done on them. They got caught on dash cams doing the following. These videos are a little difficult to watch, so I want to give you guys fair warning. And with that said, let's take a look.
God, it's crazy.
Now, that video was released in December of 2012, and the update to that story is that the trooper in that video, Kelly Hellenson, has been fired and has been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. She had no probable cause. In both cases, we're about to show you the second case, the women got stopped for routine traffic violations. In one case, someone was speeding. In the other case, someone had thrown a cigarette outside of her window. So they were searching for marijuana. They asked, hey, is there marijuana on you? And the women are like, no, there's no marijuana on us. And they're like, we don't believe you. They put their gloves on and proceeded to search them.
Now, I have a theory on this, which I'll get to after the second video, and I'm curious to see if my theory is warranted in the second video. But one quick note here. I'm so glad that not only was she fired, but that she was charged with sexual assault.
Yeah, because that's all out in the open. First of all, you have no probable cause to search her like that, and you're doing it out in the open in front of everyone. By the way, if there was a couple in a relationship doing that outside, where a guy is feeling a woman up like that, he would be arrested. She would be arrested as well, right? For indecent exposure, whatever it is. And why is it okay? Why would a cop think that it's okay to do that out in the open like that, to violate a person like that?
Because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Obviously, she thought she can get away with it. Now, we don't know how many times she did that and did get away with it. Yeah. This time she happened to be caught. So let's take a look at the second video.
A Pensacola police officer is on paid administrative leave after he hit and killed a man he was chasing.
According to police reports, Officer Gerald Ard was patrolling Cervantes Street early Saturday morning when he saw a suspicious man on a bike at a construction site. He told him to stop, but he says the man took off. Police say during that pursuit, the man fell off his bike and into the path of Ard's cruiser in a parking lot off R Street. Channel 3's Jake Peterson is following this story, and he joins us now with the latest. Jake, first of all, who is investigating this incident?
Well, Sue, that is standard procedure whenever a suspect dies. Now, we are here at the bank parking lot where this all went down. Take a look. Some of the markings where this happened are still on the ground. But perhaps most important for investigators is the eyewitness testimony of people who saw it all go down across the street. This cell phone video shows the crowd standing outside Sluggo's restaurant the morning of the incident.
It was pretty horrific. I would never want to see it again. The guy on the bike swerved into the bank parking lot that was right there, kind of jumped off his bike. I guess it sort of nudged him, and then he fell down completely, and the car just completely ran over him and then hit the curb.
Kirby says the crowd just watched in horror. Witnesses say several people started filming with their cell phones, but officers got defensive and threatened to take the phones. The FDLE is reviewing all statements and video from Saturday morning.
I think he made some really poor judgments, and it turned out for the worst, you know. It was pretty awful, and I think just a few different choices he could have made could have ended the entire situation with better results. The guy had gotten off his bike. He should have stopped his cop car and chased him down or something.
And police have not identified the victim. They say he had no ID on him, and no family members have come forward. We are hearing from people here in Brownsville that he is a 16-year-old male. If you have any information, please contact authorities. But for now, we're live in Pensacola. Jake Peterson, Channel 3 News.
The surveillance video is dramatic and telling. At 3 p.m. Thursday, 18-year-old Ramarley Graham can be seen walking into his home on East 229th in the Bronx. The NYPD rushes in seconds later without a search warrant and try to gain entry.
And he's kicking the door because the door is locked. They came in with their gun drawn.
According to a resident who was inside during the forced entry,
they did not screen police.
And there is no sign of a search warrant. The surveillance video is high grade. Its clarity, that of a professional. Clearly, the officers are seen desperately trying to break into the house through the front door. The damage evident once we got our cameras inside. The video also shows the NYPD entering through the back and then unlocking the front door. Once in, the race upstairs to Graham is on. And moments later, boom, boom, is all Paulette Minzy heard. In her bathroom and barely dressed, she suddenly had a gun in her face. Minzy then put her hands up and screams,
"I'm the landlord, I'm the landlord."
Minzy said the NYPD then searched her home. They found no gun. On the second floor, an unarmed Ramarley Graham was dead.
After everything that's happened and the death of the young boy,
The death of the young boy. And
how do you trust police?
I can't trust them. I'm scared of them. Right now I'm scared of my life because I don't know what they will do. Because, you know, I don't know what they do, and if they saw me, I'm so scared.
Do you think they're doing their job?
No, they're not. They're not doing their job. They're not doing their job. They're cruel. They're very cruel, and I'm scared of my life because the cops come and put the gun in my face. I'm so scared.
A judge throws out the indictment against police officer Richard Haste. He's the man who killed unarmed Bronx teen Ramarley Graham in his home last year. The decision infuriated Graham's parents. They spoke to our Brittany Miller just hours after the announcement. She has this interview that you'll only see on 12.
Justice and peace, two things the family of Ramarley Graham say were absent from the courtroom Wednesday morning when the indictment against Officer Richard Haste was tossed out and the charges dropped. A Bronx judge called instructions to the grand jury misleading, saying the Bronx DA's office was incorrect in telling the grand jury to disregard communication to Richard Haste that Ramarley may be armed.
The judge made a difficult but correct decision here. There's no winners or losers in this case.
I don't care what the PBA might say, there's no winners here. I would love to have my son.
So we are definitely the losers.
While the Bronx DA's office was told it could represent the case to a grand jury, a move Graham doesn't want the DA to make.
I don't know if anyone in that office will try this case properly because the DA worked closely with the NYPD, and it's like they're buddies. So how can I trust them to send their buddies to prison?
Money Cat knows where the money tree grows.
Get your picture painted on the magazine cover. You can have a ballad with the world your lover. Money Cat can buy up anyone who's high up.
We've got Dixon, politics, and law in the palm of our paw. The gendarmes may nail you, the lawyers may fail you, the judges may jail you, man. So why be a flapola with egg on your pan?
If anyone can save you, the Money Cat can.
Meow.
Unarmed Dylan Taylor shot dead by Salt Lake City PD. On August 11th, Salt Lake City PD officer Bron Cruz shot 20-year-old Dylan Taylor to death in front of a 7-Eleven. The caller said they're obviously looking for trouble, just the way they look. Outside the 7-Eleven, at least 2 officers, including Cruz, approached Dylan Taylor, his brother, and his cousin, but Dylan had his back to the officers.
Get your hands out! Get them out!
When Cruz ordered Taylor to show his hands, Taylor had his earphones in and his hands were in his pants. When he removed his hand, Officer Cruz thought he was drawing a gun and shot him. Taylor's family say he was simply adjusting his waistband or removing his earphones, and that Cruz didn't wait for Taylor to comply before shooting him. Taylor was not armed.
The man killed by police made their first public comments this morning, a day before they bury their son. An officer shot Akai Gurley in a dark stairwell of a housing complex in Brooklyn. CBS News' Dave Carlin is live in Fort Greene with the story that is new at noon. Dave.
Akai Gurley's parents traveled here from Florida. They call his death murder by cop.
My son was my heart, and now he's been taken away from me so innocently.
In this church, surrounded by relatives and community leaders, the parents of 28-year-old Akai Gurley made their first public comments about his death.
My son was my sunshine, and my wife's sunshine.
He hasn't done nothing wrong. He's a good man, good. He loved his family, he loved his baby girl. He was going to bring home my granddaughter to visit me for the first time in 2 years.
On November 21st, Gurley was shot in the chest and killed by a rookie officer in a darkened stairwell in Brooklyn's Pink Houses development. The officer who fired the shot, Peter Liang, was with a partner assigned to Violence Reduction Overtime Detail. Kevin Powell is the spokesman for Gurley's parents, Sylvia and Kenneth Palmer.
The 2 officers were not supposed to be in the portal of the stairway. In fact, Deputy Inspector Miguel Iglesias, who was then the head officer of the local housing compound, had ordered them not to go into the stairway to patrol.
The 2 officers entered a stairwell on the 8th floor, and Liang pulled out his flashlight and gun. Gurley and his girlfriend opened the door into the stairwell a floor below, and that's when he was shot. Investigations are ongoing by NYPD and by Brooklyn District Attorney Kenneth Thompson's office.
We feel that the officer should be charged with homicide.
I feel like I'm laying in the morgue with him right now. Nothing in this world can bring my son back to me, nothing.
The viewing and wake for Akai Gurley will take place here at Brown Memorial Baptist Church from 6 to 9 p.m. Live in Fort Greene, Dave Carlin, CBS 2 News.
As the New York Daily News is now reporting, while Akai Gurley was dying in a darkened stairwell at a Brooklyn housing development, the cop who fired the fatal bullet was texting his union representative, sources told the Daily News. Go help the guy. Go help him. What is wrong with you, man? I know you want to cover your own ass. Can't you be a human being for a second? And now it wasn't a second. Look at how long it took. Right after rookie cop Peter Liang discharged a single bullet that struck Gurley, 28, he and his partner, Sean Landau, were incommunicado for more than 6.5 minutes, sources said Thursday. Now, would Gurley have died anyway? We have no way of knowing. I don't know. Who knows what could have happened in that 6.5 minutes? Maybe they could have applied pressure. Maybe they could have done CPR. I have no idea, right? And it was actually one of the neighbors that called 911. Go help the guy. You know a guy got shot. You know it because you're calling your union rep trying to cover your own ass. And look, it might have been an accident in the first place, but when you don't treat the guy for 6.5 minutes, well, then we're talking about something else. I mean, at a bare minimum, that seems like criminally negligent. Now, they'll have to look into the case, and they'll have to talk to witnesses, and they'll have to see what happened. Were they, even though they were incommunicado for those 6.5 minutes, did they go down and try to help him at some point after they were done texting? All those details should come out in an investigation, but this should be thoroughly investigated, because here we have yet another cop shooting someone, in this case an accident, but then caring more about himself than he does about the guy he just shot.
Of course, I'm both saddened and outraged that another incident like this has happened where a rookie officer was allowed to patrol the buildings with his gun drawn and kill another innocent, unarmed man who wasn't doing absolutely anything wrong, committing no crimes. He was just on his way back home.
A Texas police officer has resigned following a videotaped traffic stop in which he's heard and seen berating a speeding driver who's rushing a passenger to the hospital. The video shows Officer Grant Jones with his gun drawn, breaking the driver's side window and pulling 75-year-old Tracy Lott out of the truck. In the truck, 73-year-old Johnny Hodge says he's gasping for air hooked up to an oxygen tank.
It don't make no difference. It don't make no difference. It don't make no difference whatsoever. Just because you got a medical problem, don't think you can come out here on the highway and do whatever you want to do. But you get out of the hospital, you better have a pair of handcuffs waiting on.
The officer handcuffed Lott and wrote him a ticket for speeding and failure to stop. He's still shaken by the incident.
We stepped up that iron head. And they took me and drove me.
The chief of police says the charges against Lott have been dropped.
This day and time, an officer has to take precautionary manners and safety issues have to be involved in this and things like that determined. But as I said, it's just an unfortunate incident that's taking place, for both parties.
After he's seen what he was dealing with, he should put his gun back in his holster. Two old men.
It was a search for Sean Deaton that led police to the Village Apartments in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
I pulled in and I saw a lot of police.
Convinced he was inside apartment 407G, the Lawrenceburg SWAT team surrounded the building.
They looked like they were ready to go to war.
Police spent hours ordering Deaton to surrender. When that didn't work, they responded with high-powered CS tear gas and forced entry.
I heard the shots and then I saw the smoke. It looked like my apartment was on fire. The smoke that was just blowing out of my windows.
When the smoke cleared out, reality set in. The suspect wasn't inside this apartment. In fact, the person who lives here didn't even know the suspect. And this home was left looking like a war zone.
I mean, the glass is everywhere. There is a burn in the carpet. My bedroom has been, destroyed.
Kayla Irwin is a single mother of two and now unable to live in her apartment.
The glass is shot out all the way onto my bed. They dumped every basket of laundry that I had stacked in my closet. Most of it was clean. You can see where this paper was, the difference between this, where the dust has settled. It's all covered in poison. I mean, how do you start with replacing the items that your kids have had since the day they were born?
Kayla's pets were inside the house during the raid. One of her guinea pigs died.
I've cried for a week now, and it's too much. It's really too much.
Next-door neighbor Emmanuel Bridewell had been home from Iraq for just 2 days when police raided the apartment. He clears landmines for a living, but says he's never seen anything quite like this.
Overpowered. In my opinion, it looked like they were enjoying what they were doing. They did not need to do all this.
Everything I own is in there.
With everything contaminated, Kayla says she appealed to Lawrenceburg police, but says she's gotten nowhere.
They basically just said, you know, sorry for the inconvenience. Go ahead and clean it up. Clean up our mess.
That was 11 days ago.
For the past week and a half, we've had to borrow and acquire everything we have from friends and family.
CS gas is high-potency tear gas, the same gas used on the Branch Davidian cult compound in Waco, Texas. During our visit, you could feel burning in your eyes, nose, and throat.
It's tearing me up because I just don't know where to start. I really don't know where to start. I can't get any help from anybody that matters, you know? I just don't understand why the police would do this to someone. You know, a mother with 2 kids who tries to do all the right things and is just forced to start over.
Dave Wagner, Target 5.
They just sprayed. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
We return now to that wild police chase caught on dash cam. Officers forcing a car off the road, holding a man and woman at gunpoint before realizing they weren't criminals, just a couple racing to have a baby. ABC's Rena Ninan has the story.
They're the dramatic calls that feel like they're taken from an episode of Cops. Watch as officers order the driver and passenger out of the car, holding them at gunpoint. Rachel frantically calls 911.
Okay, you need to calm down because I can't understand what you're saying.
Ben grabbing the phone as police close in.
Ma'am, we are heading to the hospital.
Okay, for what reason?
We're having a baby and it's coming out.
Police calling for backup, laying tire spikes on the road ahead.
They popped my tires and I'm about to have a baby in the seat.
The former Metro officer who ordered women to expose themselves during traffic stops asked for mercy.
On CBS Atlanta, the parents of a teen gunned down by a police sniper share their horrific story. The 16-year-old was suicidal and the cops were called to help.
Tonight, our chief investigative reporter Wendy Saltzman shows us video from inside that home that was taken by Andrew minutes before he died, and she details never released about his death.
Like just about any other kid, Andrew had had a bad day at school. The pressure was so overwhelming he grabbed a gun and threatened to kill himself. His mother called the cops in desperation, hoping an officer would come talk to him. But what arrived was an army of deputies, an armored tank, and a sniper. A boy described as a pacifist, who some say was needlessly killed.
Would you have ever called the police if you knew this could have happened?
Oh, that's the one thing I would have done different today. I would not have called 911.
Andrew's parents, Lisa and Nick Messina,
who's my best friend,
are speaking out for the first time to tell what they say really happened to their son. It was May 1st of this year, and Andrew had just gotten a bad grade at school.
He just got sad and kind of down on himself and talked about running away, and that discussion kind of went to talk about maybe taking his own life.
It just happened so fast, and then he went upstairs. He had a gun in his hand.
Messina picked up the phone and called 911.
I need you to get away from him if you think he's going to shoot you. Oh, yeah, I think he's going to shoot himself.
The operator told her to get out of the house.
How many cars are coming? Just one, right? I'm not sure.
But the next thing they knew, a slew of officers arrived.
We brought an army to kill a 16-year-old boy, take out a 16-year-old boy.
The teen was inside his home alone with no hostages. He had a .357 Magnum in his hand and was drinking and threatening to kill himself. He took this video speaking to his father on the phone.
I do know that I personally don't want to live, so you should probably just let this happen if you really love me.
But law enforcement negotiators soon cut off that call.
I'm not coming closer. I'll stand right here. I think I'll take a step back.
Deputies in combat gear surrounded the home with a frightened boy inside.
My son must have been terrified. Terrified at that scene out there with guns and rifles pointed at him.
Is that a riot shield? That's a riot shield. Why, I'm not even, this isn't a riot. This is one person who's pissed off.
Andrew begged negotiators several times to speak with his father.
So, hey, where's my dad? He's supposed to be here.
Nick and Lisa were down the street, just a few feet away.
Sir, where's my father? Where is he?
That just bothers me more. To think that my son was in here by himself minutes before his death, asking for me.
About 15 minutes before the fatal shot, Lisa and Nick Messina saw sniper Jason Yarborough walk past them in camouflage with his rifle over his shoulder. The sniper's scope focused at this front door helped him to see clearly, as if he was holding a gun from just 5 feet away.
A minute later, this horrendous cannon shot, and he was dead.
Absolutely shock and numbness. Like, no, there's no way that they shot him, but they did.
Police say they were forced to use a weapon, but the only person that was injured, I'm told, is a pregnant woman. Dornella Connor just lost her left eye and is now partially blind in her right eye, and she says the police are to blame.
Sir, do me a favor, take your hands out of your pockets for me. Take your hands out of your pockets.
Team's at the ER.
Okay, let's go pat you down for weapons, okay? You got anything that's gonna poke, stick, cut, and hurt me? Okay, just relax for me, just relax. Relax. Why are you shaking for? Relax. Follow through, shots fired, shots fired! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back, sir! Sir, get back! Get back! I'm not!
Tonight we're hearing from a Jacksonville man who was shot at by a police officer last night, an officer who investigators say thought at first the man had a weapon.
Last night was very scary, man. I had my daughter in the car with me coming home from the basketball court, and she was having an asthma attack at the time, and I was trying to rush her back to the house.
Brian Dennison describes Monday night as a nightmare. He says he was dropping his daughter off at her home at the Plantation Apartments when a simple asthma attack turned severe and got JSO's attention.
As I'm rushing back to the house, cops came behind me, and they actually, they was trying to pull me over. I waved the cop down to tell him to just hold on. When I got out the car, cops still proceeded to come towards me.
The officer told him to stop, and he tells me that he was just trying to help his little girl.
I was explaining to him the situation with my daughter, and he took a shot at me while my daughter was in my hands.
This police officer is charged with harassment. Officer Daryl Malone's accused of flashing a gun at a driver, then threatening him when that man called 911.
It is a complete abuse of power. He stepped across a line that shouldn't be stepped across.
Montgomery says Malone flashed a gun at him on Germantown Parkway and threatened him. And when Montgomery called 911 for help, the off-duty officer was able to get Montgomery's personal cell phone number from 911 dispatcher Jenny Rice.
I got a phone call from a blocked cell phone number. It was the off-duty police officer again who had gotten my information from dispatch and was making more threats to me.
Since then, Montgomery wanted Officer Malone charged with a crime, but MPD's Internal Affairs Office decided Malone didn't commit one and put him back on the job November 27th.
raised what Deputy Knox perceived to be a long-barreled weapon.
The officer told us that he was up there trying to keep the blood inside of him and stuff like that, and he was real shook up about it, and he was screaming on his radio needing help.
The driver of the vehicle, Bobby Dean Knipe, 70, of Lincolnton, North Carolina.
The York County Sheriff's Office says Knox stopped Knipe for an expired tag. Knox fired several shots, hitting Knipe once. Turns out it was a walking cane.
It's disturbing that it happened so close, but it just goes to show you what times we live in.
Tragic police shooting in North Carolina. A police officer charged with opening fire and killing an unarmed former college football player in the middle of the night. The young man was simply looking for help after he crashed his car nearby. ABC's Steve Osunsami has that story.
This morning, even Charlotte police are saying that the young black man shot to death by one of their officers early in the morning may have simply been knocking on doors in this subdivision asking for help.
To hear that happen, I don't know, this is crazy.
Jonathan Farrell was just 24 years old and a former safety for Florida A&M. Police say he had just crashed his car a half-mile away. The wreck so severe he had to crawl out his back window.
Here's a young man that's always kind of, doing the right thing, but all of a sudden his life is cut short because someone was a little overzealous.
For Good Morning America, Steve Osunsami, ABC News, Atlanta.
For the first time, we're hearing the 911 tapes of a woman who says she witnessed Tuesday night's in-custody death.
She says she saw everything, and Eyewitness News reporter Tom Murphy listened to the tapes and has more. Tom?
Caitlin, the Kern County Sheriff's Department turned the tapes over to us today. Our first chance to hear what witnesses were saying just moments after David Silva was restrained by several sheriff's deputies. He died shortly after that. Take a listen to the tape.
Kern County Sheriff's Office, how can I help you?
Yeah, your police officer is over here on Flowers, and I think it's Tom. What is it, Mom? Tom? There was a man laying on the floor, and your police officers beat the shit out of him and killed him.
The caller continued, saying the man had been unconscious, not breathing for at least 20 minutes. The caller says she had videotape from when the sheriffs first pulled up to when she called 911. She added she was right in front of where it all happened, and the sheriffs didn't have to do what they did.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sheriffs. The guy was laying on the floor, and 8 sheriffs ran up and started beating him up with sticks. The man is dead, laying right here, right now. And I got everything on videotape. The man was not doing nothing. These cops had no reason to do this to this man.
And he asked for help. He was yelling for help. He was begging for help. No one came because the people that were supposed to help him were the ones killing him.
Animals. That's what they portrayed to be to me because that's what they acted like.
That's how Jason Land describes the deputies he saw Tuesday night.
They jumped out, reached for their bats, poles, whatever you want to call it, beat that man till they killed him. Right in front of my face.
While sheriff's officials investigate a suspect's death in their custody, more questions are raised about what happened after that incident.
A witness we interviewed asks why he was arrested a few hours later, and a family asks why their cell phones were seized. Reporter Carol Ferguson has the latest.
Well, today we talked to the attorney that family hired. That lawyer was also contacted by the eyewitness we heard from yesterday. This all happened across from Kern Medical Center at about midnight on Tuesday. Officers say the suspect was reportedly intoxicated and he fought with the officers. They used batons to restrain him and he died later. 2 family members got cell phone video, and detectives arrived at their home a few hours later demanding the phones. Attorney John Teo says protocols must be followed. He questions why it took so long to get a search warrant and keeping the family in their home for hours till the search warrant arrived. Melissa Cuellar says her family wants the video to be available, and that's what they told officers.
We told them we weren't going to give them our phone. And they told us that it was evidence, and pretty much my house was a crime scene because we had the evidence.
I think they felt that they could intimidate these people in giving them their phones without the search warrant. And now they're holding the phones, and there's no reason to.
Tonight, all charges have been dropped against that man you've seen on tape being kicked and beaten by Humphreys County deputies. The DA now says the man arrested, Darren Ring, didn't do anything wrong that night, so Ring walked out of jail today. That happened at the same time the FBI handed out grand jury subpoenas all over the county. And several witnesses have now come forward saying Ring endured even more violence after the cameras stopped rolling. Channel 4's Dennis Ferrier broke this story last week. He's here with the newest developments tonight. Dennis?
Darren Ring stops on a Sonic on his way home to New Johnsonville. Just this morning, he was charged with aggravated assault and resisting arrest. Tonight, all charges dropped. Darren Ring's claims he didn't commit a crime, now supported by the state.
And I just wasn't comfortable with what I know about the case, leaving him in jail pending a trial. Given the facts of this case.
Public Defender Jake Lockhart says the Humphreys County deputies and Waverly officers who beat and tasered Ring could not write an arrest report that could overcome the evidence shown on the video.
He was not told that he was under arrest. He was simply taken to the ground, and after he's taken to the ground, everyone who's seen the video sees what's happened.
Today, the FBI and TBI served federal grand jury subpoenas to the Humphreys County Sheriff's Department. One of the new allegations the TBI and FBI will be investigating is that Darren Ring was beaten and tasered again in jail while handcuffed in a cell. Larry Barbie is one of the two inmate witnesses.
We're in a four-man cell, and right across the hall is the single cells. And we have a window we can see outside there. We can see in the hallway. And we heard a big commotion going on, and they bring Darren. There were like 4 or 5 deputies. The sheriff was one of them. They got Darren wrapped in a blanket, dragging him down the hall. He's butt naked in a blanket. Sheriff was over here, and he had his hands up on that cement bench, and he was going down on his knees on him over and over, while Deputy Tim Hedge is standing on the top of Darren's head.
After that, Barbie says a young female jailer told a Waverly police officer she had never seen anyone tased.
She said, "I've never seen that. I want to see him get tased. I want to see that." Parnell goes in there and he grabs him by his head. He tells him to stand up at first, but he can't stand up because his hands are handcuffed to his feet. He can't stand up. And he keeps telling him to, and Darren keeps saying, "I can't." So he grabs his head and he rams it into the wall, and then Kente Bell comes in behind him and tases him.
Benji Lee and Tim Hedge are charged with violating the civil rights of Darren Ring. The Justice Department believes that kicking Darren Ring and hitting him with a baton repeatedly for 19 minutes to the point of injury was excessive and unnecessary force.
Kissed her, really? She kissed me. Like the fella once said,
you just pulled a gun on that man for no reason. What is wrong? Look at your officer. You can't do that, sir. Yo, look at your officer.
Rocks one North Georgia community tonight. Good evening. I'm Russ Spencer.
And I'm Amanda Davis. A Toccoa pastor was shot and killed during an undercover narcotics sting.
Pastor Jonathan Ayers was shot outside a gas station in downtown Toccoa, and that's where Fox 5's Deidre Dukes joins us live. Deidre?
We spoke to the Stevens County Sheriff a short time ago. He does tell me that the pastor was not known to his department. He was not a target of the investigation. The deadly confrontation caught on tape. A store surveillance camera was rolling when undercover drug agents opened fire on Toccoa pastor Jonathan Ayers' car.
Reverend Ayers was not a target of this investigation. None of us knew him before. He puts the car in reverse and goes in reverse in a fast fashion, at which time the agent fired twice into the car, striking Reverend Ayers.
We are told that the two agents who were directly involved in that shooting are on paid administrative leave.
As she lost her faith in law enforcement after SWAT members damaged her home and left her homeless.
Renter says she allowed them access, but they called SWAT instead. Mary Williams says she can't stay in her house for much longer than a minute.
Oh, my eyes burn, my throat burn, my skin itch.
She says Anderson SWAT damaged her home even though she allowed them to search it for a wanted suspect. Mary says she did remove the dog from the house and waited across the street, but it was another 4 hours before SWAT arrived and started shooting tear gas through the windows.
Like how you see a movie, a Rambo movie, how Rambo hide in the woods and do it. I mean, it was awful. You can see big lights going off.
SWAT came out empty-handed. McLeod is still on the loose. Williams says she is now homeless. Nearly every window is broken from tear gas canisters and gas grenades, and the strong sting of chemicals still lingers in the air.
Her claim is probably valid there, but I think over time it's going to dissipate.
You should not have to go through this, especially people you trust to protect you.
And Williams filed a complaint with the police department and wants her belongings replaced. According to the city attorney, police are not liable for damage caused during a SWAT raid.
After wrestling him out of the car, they tasered him in an effort to force him to cooperate.
Sir, cooperate!
Turns out the man was in severe diabetic shock. His blood sugar level at the time was just 11.
A claim of excessive force by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office.
The woman who says the deputies body slammed her to the ground is now taking legal action. Natalie Tendall has the new details of her 2 News investigation. Natalie?
Well, Emily Evans and attorney Mike Bly said this video proves Montgomery County Sheriff's employees used excessive force. But leaders with the Sheriff's Office says while force was used, it was not excessive. Now Evans is suing the sheriff and these 4 employees who work at the jail. A lawsuit filed Monday in Ohio's district court is asking for more than $25,000 in damages for Emily Evans. According to her attorney, Evans suffered facial fractures and a bleed near her brain. They say it happened after this incident, caught on tape in March, involving a sergeant with the sheriff's office. Evans was being booked into jail for OVI. She claimed that sergeant used excessive force. Now, the sheriff's office has not commented on the lawsuit, but they did say their office conducted an internal investigation into the incident. They say that the sergeant used appropriate force. They say excessive force was not used, and that sergeant did not violate policy. Evans wants a jury to decide. She is suing for excessive force.
A local homeowner is demanding answers. She says the SWAT team broke into her house. She tells us it happened as police set up to catch her neighbor across the street.
Spoke to that day's Deborah Franz. She happens to live right across the street from the man police were trying to arrest.
Deborah Franz never imagined a fight at her neighbor's house would turn into a SWAT standoff.
The cop goes, "Oh, y'all need to leave. Y'all can't be in your house."
That happened around 1 p.m. 6 hours later, the scene was cleared and she went back home.
I was the first one came in the door, and I stopped. I froze because I realized somebody had messed with my TV.
Franz says her blinds were opened, her Xbox and TV were disconnected. A drape over her bedroom window was thrown on the floor. At first, she thought it was a burglar, but then realized nothing was missing.
Then the last persons I seen around my house was police officers. So I'm just assuming that it had to be them.
So she called the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
When he did call me back and say, "Yes, Miss Franz, my men did come in your house."
A campus police officer shot and killed a student. Campus police say that Gilbert Collar was naked, acting strangely.
Standing out in the crowd in a red blazer, black skirt, and heels, attorney Elizabeth Ritter received some media coverage 3 years ago at a free trade protest when she was shot with rubber bullets in the back and a leg. beef wasn't with the trade summit, but with a strong police presence. Minutes later, she took another rubber bullet on her forehead as she crouched behind her homemade sign that read, "Fear totalitarianism."
You okay?
Don't get around me. Let them see it. Hit her in the face!
Now her case is back in the news because of this.
The good news about being able to watch you guys live on TV is that lady with the red dress.
A police video shot after the shooting incident, just released following a review of excessive force complaints at the protest.
I don't know who got her, but when it went through the sun, it hit her smack dab in the middle of the head.
Attorney Ritter says she was too scared to file a complaint before, but now she intends to sue for excessive force.
I was cowering with a poster behind me, but my fingers were in front of the poster. I believe they thought that my face would have reasonably concluded that my face was behind that poster, and that's why they fired that shot.
The Broward Sheriff's Office says Ritter's possible civil rights lawsuit prevents them from talking specifics.
Picked up from the street of Miami from one of the scurrying cockroaches.
Oh, cool. Wow.
Police are red-faced about their video.
Do you think that that tape paints a pretty picture?
No, I don't. Those comments shouldn't have been made. I should have stopped them, and I recognize that.
No officer has been charged or disciplined in Ritter's rubber bullet incident, nor is it under investigation. Susan Candiotti, CNN, Miami.
Co-workers of a pizza delivery driver mistakenly shot by police are now questioning the safety of their own jobs tonight as their friend remains in the hospital.
Tonight, Fairfax County Police have launched a criminal investigation into a deadly officer-involved shooting.
This comes as the victim's family says they've learned John Gear was not armed when an officer shot and killed him during a standoff in Springfield.
Well, what should have been a fun day at the Air Force Museum turned into a nightmare for a Columbus family. They were pulled over and held at gunpoint while leaving the base.
On their way out, the family van was pulled over.
And I'm looking in my side view mirror to see him step out of his vehicle behind the door with his gun drawn, pointing it at me.
Alice and Wendy were talked out of the car at gunpoint, cuffed and put in the back of police cruisers.
My grandchildren are screaming. They are hysterical. They saw the gun.
My 5-year-old daughter asked if is grandma going to get shot.
Now he says, your plates are stolen. What?
All we can offer at this point is our apologies.
It happened on Friday, but the family is still shaken up. They feel that being held at gunpoint and put in handcuffs was excessive behavior, but the base says they were just following their procedures.
Our apologies.
Police brutality. Drunk suspect beaten beyond recognition. This surveillance video shows how a Texas cop got himself fired for roughing up an intoxicated suspect.
A son speaks out after deputies kill his mother.
I couldn't even touch her hand or kiss her on the forehead.
Conflicting statements surrounding the shooting death of a mother in Bastrop County.
First, the Bastrop County Sheriff's Office said Yvette Smith was shot when she came out of a house holding a gun. Now they say it's not clear if she ever even had a gun. Dawn Denny has the latest on this investigation.
We just spoke with Yvette Smith's son, and he says his mother never would have challenged police or picked up a gun.
I answered the door, and there was two investigators, two of them. They told me your mom's been involved in an accident, and I'm thinking it was a car wreck. You know, and they was like, no, she was shot by an officer and she died.
Anthony Bell sat with us on his mother's porch, still in shock. Witnesses inside the house where the shooting happened told KXAN the deputies told everyone to come out of the house, and when Yvette opened the door, she was shot twice. Anthony does not believe his mother posed a threat.
You got a mother of two gone. The woman beat cancer, just got out of knee surgery, and was fighting diabetes, dude. My mom's 5'5", 135. If you find that aggressive, you need to turn your badge in.
The sheriff's office say they responded to a 911 call about two men fighting over a gun. But witnesses at the house told KXAN the caller said the fight was about money. The homeowner also told KXAN that when he heard the dispatcher say there was a gun inside, he told deputies there was no gun. That's when Yvette reportedly opened the door and was shot.
So where you're going to have to go back and look at who's hiring and who's training these people, and how were they training them, and what protocols are you supposed to follow and what didn't you follow?
The sheriff's office is no longer commenting on the shooting since the Texas Rangers have now taken over the investigation. In the meantime, Deputy Willis has been put on paid administrative leave. In Bastrop, I'm Dawn Denny, KXAN News.
Well, we asked the Bastrop County Sheriff's Office if any gun was recovered at the scene, and they have not responded.
Keeps my dad going.
A Potawatomi County man is still recovering from what he calls a brutal beating at the hands of the SWAT team. Even investigators agree false claims started this whole incident. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Griswold.
And I'm Craig DeGrelli. Deputies now say the man did nothing wrong.
You guys, law enforcement got a complaint saying that he was harassing someone, and instead of talking to him, John Heitrick claims the sheriff's office turned him into a victim.
It's just one that I'm never going to forget.
52-year-old John Heitrick lives with Parkinson's disease, but still enjoys working on vehicles. He was working on a tractor in his shop in August 2012 when all of a sudden
they ran for me with machine guns. And I looked at him like, what?
He says nearly a dozen SWAT members from the Potawatomi County Sheriff's Office jumped out of a van. Heitrick says they tackled him, slamming his face on a tire machine and the ground, and they continued to hammer him.
5 times. I think it was boom, 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 boom when I was on the ground.
Prickett says a cell phone video taken by an EMT at the scene clearly shows Heitrick blindsided and shocked by the quick assault. Heitrick says he was minding his own business and had a concussion, a broken orbital bone in his face, and other injuries to show for it. He went to the hospital, then was taken to jail. The charges of assault and harassment were dismissed, but he's now filed a federal lawsuit claiming police used excessive force and violated his rights.
They repeatedly were swinging to kill me. They repeatedly didn't let up. I did not resist them. Nothing.
Why was a SWAT team deployed? And 2, why wasn't Mr. Heitrick provided a reasonable opportunity to surrender peaceably?
In a deposition, one deputy said Heitrick didn't make any threatening action. Heitrick wants the sheriff's office to cover his medical bills as well as the damages. He also wants to see policies reviewed because of this. Now, the trial is scheduled coming up in the fall. Craig, get this. They also allege that a sniper was set up across the street surveilling him while he was just working on the tractor.
My goodness, he paints quite a descriptive picture. What's the response from the sheriff's office today?
Well, I have contacted the attorneys for the sheriffs that represent them. So far, we haven't heard back.
All right, good digging, Jake. Interesting case. Thanks.
Some of you are here, some are far away, some are even in heaven. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. Whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made.
I heard there was a secret chord David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the 4th, the 5th, the minor fall and the major lift, and the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof. Her beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to her kitchen chair, and she broke your throne, and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Baby, I've been here before. I've seen this room and I've walked this floor. You know, I used to live alone before I knew you. And I've seen your flag on the marble arch, but love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Hey, Cameron, all I did, I would give up, I would drop the gun.